Hello, I am Gerry Croon from Crooniek, and you are listening to Darker Side of Music interviews.
Welcome to the first interview podcast from Darker Side of Music. For our first podcast, we have interviewed Gerry Croon of Crooniek, the Neo Fanfare band from Belgium. They do have a unique sound. It's very unusual, but it is very good. We hope you enjoy this interview, and please subscribe because there will be plenty more interviews coming up in the near future. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Gerry Croon from Belgium, from the Belgian band Crooniek. I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to do an interview with the Darker Side of Music. Many thanks for all support.
What's your musical background?
My musical background. I started playing the cornet at the age of 9 in a local fanfare where all my other family people used to play. So, at the age of 9, I started playing cornet in the fanfare van Kampenhout, where I still live. Later on, I played in many other ensembles of fanfares or brass bands. But at the age of 25, I started my own ensemble, my own mini fanfare, you can call it, called Crooniek. And first of all, Crooniek was only an ensemble who covered popular songs and played them in an instrumental way. You can think about songs like Sweet Child of Mine from Guns N' Roses, or Boys Don't Cry from The Cure, of course, or Viva La Vida van Coldplay, things like that. But later on, we started working with other artists, with choirs, with other singer-songwriters, and one of them was Olivier Swell. It's pronounced Olivier Swell, but you write it Olivier Soil. And with Olivier Swell, we recorded the album Demonen en Dromen, Demons and Dreams in English. It's not a gothic album, it's a really Flemish pop rock album. But this sets things started for something new, and in 2020 I worked with Xavier Krut together to make the album with Winterstille. Winterstille is a German word for winter silence. It's a God album, a dark folk chanson God album, which was called Puin van Dromen, which is Dutch for debris of dreams. Dus Puin van Dromen, debris of dreams, with the band Winterstille. But Winterstille is in a way actually the band Crooniek with Xavier Krut. So first we also thought to call the band Xavier and Crooniek, like with Olivier and Crooniek. But we decided to not do that and to go for a new name, so we chose Winterstille. And then 2 years later on 2022, I made my first real debut album with Crooniek. So this came out at the 6th of May through the label Woolly Discs. It's a Belgian independent label from Ghent, Belgium. And on this album of Crooniek is a mix of songs, new songs and old songs we did with Olivier Crooniek, but in a more darker way, and also a few songs from Winterstille, also in a new remastered, new way, you can call it. So my background is really fanfare in a way, but I always, at the age of 17, I like the darker sides of music, like, of course, gothic. My most favorite bands are also Lacrimosa, Goethes Erben, Das Ich, Sopraturnus, Arcana, also more metal like Tristania. I think all these bands definitely influence the music I make now with Crooniek.
Where does the band name come from?
The band name Crooniek, as you can guess, it says Kroon, which is my last name, and we put "ik" on it, so it's pronounced. It sounds more smooth, so it's Crooniek, pronounced in Dutch. But it's also it resembles to chronic, a chronic of something, chronic of time. It resembles to that word as well. But the name Crooniek is my last name because one founding member of Crooniek is also my nephew, Jan Kroon. Who was there from the start on, and he plays the euphonium. Other members of Crooniek changed during time, but Jan, my nephew, Jan Kroon, is there from the start, and I think he will stay with me till the end.
How did you all meet?
All the musicians I met during live. You meet people at concerts, specifically for me, while I'm really busy in playing many brass bands and fanfares, and all the musicians are also playing in that area. The other ones I met during live. So the bass player I met by playing. I used to play also in another band, which is actually a surf band, the Rocketeers, but it doesn't exist anymore. The Rocketeers, it was a surf band which doesn't exist anymore, and there the bass player, Christophe Bonares, we call him Bones, I used to play the bass, so I knew from that one. And of course, Xavier Grut, specific member of Winterstille, I met because we are both editors of the Belgian underground magazine Dark Entries. That's darkentries.be. Of course, Dark Entries, which was called To a Song of Bauhaus. Yeah, that's how you meet people, but perhaps the most important person of Crooniek, of course, my wife, Annelies. When we get together, when we start to couple, she grew also a member of Crooniek, and she plays the melodic percussion and also the flute. Before I met Annelies, my future wife, the one I'm married to right now, and with whom I have 2 children, there was no melodic percussion and no flute in Crooniek. But soon as we get together, I started writing in my arrangement musical lines for melodic percussions and flute. And of course, it's a very huge. It's enlarged the sounds much more with those instruments.
Where did the idea come from to create such an unusual band?
Things grow. How to create such an unusual band? Yeah, of course. I played in fanfares, but fanfares always 30, 40 people, so it's a log machine to get started. And I wanted to have a short band where I can use my own compositions, my own arrangements of songs to do so. But of course, if you say, would you ever like to record a CD with a complete brass band or complete fanfare, I definitely say yes. So if the time is right, perhaps we might someday record a CD, an album with an entire brass band, which means 30 brass players. It will sound incredible if we could use that sound with harsh guitars, bass guitar, drums, vocals, perhaps a choir. It might be a feast to hear. Of course, you may smell the experience, the smell Lacrimosa in this answer. And yeah, that's true. Lacrimosa is one of my favorite bands, and he also used entire symphonic orchestras and choirs on his albums. I think that's how we should make music. Not all pressing out of one keyboard, but use real instruments. That's also the idea of Crooniek. We use real instruments, except for a few exceptions used by a keyboard, I say, but all the other things are played by real musicians, real artists. But I also wanted to have Crooniek, my own band, to make something new and to combine my two musical loves, which is, of course, brass music, fanfare music, on the one hand, and on the other hand, of course, the Gothic sound.
What are your musical influences?
I already spoke of my musical influences, so of course it's the fanfare and brass music, um, and definitely also the God music, like bands like Rimosa, Erbe das Ich, I repeat them, Arcana, but also Testania, The Sins of They Beloved, Dimmu Borgir, The Sisters of Mercy, The Cure, The Fields of Nephilim, all those things I put together, and that's how Crooniek sounds like.
What is your creative process like? I.e., for example, do you write the lyrics first? Do you write the music first? Or is it a combined effort to create these musical pieces?
It's hard to elaborate on a creative process, but music comes when it comes and it goes when it goes. So if you have a musical idea, you have to be fast to write it down, because 1 second later it might be gone. For some songs on the album of Crooniek, of the Trail of Time album, I start with lines or few ideas made by Kevin of Illuminine, or Olivier, or Xavier, and I arranged them then for a broad ensemble with lots of influences and a lot of instruments. Especially the work with Xavier Crut he's a singer-songwriter, so he just makes a basic scripture of chords and playing his guitar and singing his song, but that's it. And I elaborate this basic idea to a whole song using more complex structures, adding extra elements, extra bridges, extra intro, solos, and so on. But how it starts, you don't can control it. When it comes, you have to be fast to put it down.
What's the inspiration behind your lyrics? Because, I mean, they are really quite interesting lyrics.
What inspires your lyrics? Actually, on this album, the lyrics are not mine. So the lyrics are written by Xavier Crut again, or Olivier as well. I did all the musical arrangements on this album, but the lyrics are not mine on this album.
Your track, G and R, is such a great track, and it has such an unusual video. What's the idea behind the video?
Thanks for mentioning the video GMB, which means good and bad, which is actually also an elder song, which first appeared on the album Demonen en Dromen by Olivier en Crooniek. But it was in Dutch, so it was G en K, which means goed en kwaad in Dutch. But we want to do an English version of this song in a new, more dark way, with loud bass guitars and a harsh sound, and in English. So a track GMB existed, grew, and we made of this song video clip, and we made this clip in a cultural center in Kampenhout, which was not ready at that moment. So it was still work in progress, that cultural center, and it was an ideal place to make a clip in a way of a cat and mouse game. So in the clip, the idea is at the first part that Olivier is that he want to incorporate Olivier, but he doesn't want to. So we follow him, and at the end he gives in, and the big finale is that we play together. So it was huge fun to make this clip, and perhaps we make another one for a song, Nieuwe Droom, which also is a very good, which has good reviews. The song Nieuwe Dromen, which means new dreams. It might be that we make a clip of it within a few months of this song as well.
On the topic of collaborations, are there any bands, artists that you would consider or even like to collaborate with on future projects?
Yeah, of course. There are many artists or bands I would like to collaborate with. But I of course, would Tilo Wolf of Lacrimosa call me, and I can do his show. I can play in his show as a foreplay. I definitely would say yes. He would work together. Sure, I will do so. I hope perhaps someday another artist will call me, and we can make plans to make a new record, because I like to do. It's nice to work with other artists to make something new. So each with its own feelings, own input, and put together, and it sounds nice. But any artist, I mentioned Lacrimosa, but there are so many great artists I would like to cooperate with.
Do you have any tour plans, gigs, etc., coming up?
Touring, of course, we would like to play for an audience, to play the album live, but I made myself, of course, very difficult by working with 16 different musicians on this album. It can be done to get them all together for a tour. Perhaps there can be a few shows to play with them or most of the people, but I think the album Trail of Time is more a listening album. You can put it on at night to listen to, but I don't think it's really it won't be that. I think it's more made for listening at home and not for a live audience. But we will try to play a few shows in Belgium to get the album promoted. But it's not easy to get all these people together because we all have jobs. It's not our living. We are musicians in our free time, I must say. We all have jobs, families to do. So we have also we also play in many other bands. We're all involved in many other bands. So time is not in our favor, and to get a tour planned.
Now here's a question for you. Do you have any exclusive news you can share with us? If you can't, that's okay, but if you have, that would be great.
I'm afraid I don't have any exclusive news now, but I'm very happy that the album makes nice reviews all over the world, in Australia, Slovenia, Germany, America, Greece. So it's nice to hear. It's nice to find out that people like the album. I hope we can reach many people. We can persuade many people to give it a try, to be open-minded to listen to this album, because it's not easy listening. I understand it's not an easy album to comprehend. It might take some time to get it, to understand it, to get through it. Voila. But I'm very happy for all support, and it's nice to read all these kind reviews of the album. I don't have any exclusive news now about Crooniek, but if I would have so, I will inform you.
Do you have a message for your fans? Just anything they'd like to hear from you?
To the fans, thank you for taking your time to listen to the album Trail of Time by Crooniek. And many thanks to give it a chance, because I repeat myself, but it's not an easy listening album. But it's nice to hear. It's nice to find out people like it. So many thanks for your support. I appreciate it a lot.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Maybe we've missed something that you would like to mention. Feel free to mention it now.
No, I think it was a nice interview. So many thanks for support. Please mention the website at your article, if I might ask, crooniek.be, and please also mention the right Facebook, which is facebook.com/Crooniek that's the nice Facebook. And if you want to, you can also mention the Winterstille project, which is also an own homepage, which is winterstille.be. But please find out all the details on my website, crooniek.be. They're all mentioned there. So voila. Many thanks for the support.
Thank you so much for taking part in this interview. I know it's a little bit different, but we really do hope you enjoyed this experience.
Again, many thanks, and it was a nice experience. It was my first interview by this way. It's a new way, but it works. It turned out fun. It works great. So thanks for the nice experience. Thanks for all the support. Bye.
Thank you very much, Gerry. That was Gerry Croon from Crooniek. Thank you very much for the interview. We'd also like a special thank you for Greg Bullock of Cyborg Amok, the industrial band from Canada, for the great music that we've been using throughout this podcast and will be using in further podcasts. Please do subscribe to our podcast. Visit our website. All details will be on there about Crooniek and also about Cyborg Amok, and future podcasts, video interviews, written interviews, transcripts, etc. So please do subscribe and please visit our website, and that is darkersideofmusic.com. Thank you.